The side disappointed by its many defensive errors on the weekend. The Cosmos now have a bye this weekend. While Americans look to a new president, many Canberrans look to American football at the weekend. The Australian Gridiron Championships touching down in the capital. The ACT blew a 10-point lead over Western Australia to lose their opening match. The visitors scored a touchdown in each half to win the game, with Monarchs quarterback Steve Kerr scoring the only touchdown for the locals. The ACT will play Victoria on Thursday, with the final set to be held next Saturday.
A gathering of Australia's top gridiron players this week in Canberra. The ACT Monarchs taking on the West Australian Raiders in yesterday's first round of the National Championships at ACTAFL Park in Phillip. The Monarchs scored the first 10 points of the match, but it was the Raiders who kicked on in the second half to take the game 14-10. There are matches tomorrow and Thursday. The championship final set down for 8 p.m. on Saturday.
The soaring temperature hasn't stopped teams in the National Gridiron Championships throwing on their body armour and going into battle today in Canberra. This afternoon's combatants, the South Australian Dragons and Queensland. The match the first hit out for the Dragons after a bye in the first round. The Queenslanders are desperate for a win after losing to New South Wales in their first game. Going into the fourth quarter in that match, South Australia led 13 points to 9.
To gridiron, and the ACT Monarchs have rewritten the history books, winning their first senior game at interstate level. Last night, the Monarchs beat tournament favourites, the Victorian Volunteers, 27 points to 8 in the Australian National Gridiron Championships. After trailing at half-time, the Monarchs came back in the second. Matt Delaney, Dwayne Lukey and Steve Kerr all making touchdowns. The Monarchs will play South now moves to Adelaide in March. Well, it's not the Super Bowl, but a last-minute touchdown has secured third place for the ACT Monarchs in the Australian National Gridiron Championships at the weekend. Dwayne Lukey scored just minutes from the end to give the ACT a 2-point win over the South Australian Dragons. While Western Australia took out the championships, the ACT won its first interstate event. 3 touchdowns were scored by the locals during the nail-biter, with Steve Kerr the other standout performer.
Back home, the ACT Monarchs won a thriller against South Australia to place third in the National Gridiron Championships played at Football Park on the weekend. The Monarchs scoring in the closing minutes to win 28-26. In the championship game, meantime, the Western Australian Raiders took on the New South Wales team. 2 touchdowns in the second half, proving the difference. Raiders claim the Federation Bowl with a final scoreline of 14-0. Meantime, the humid conditions in Canberra took their toll during the St George Triathlon Series on Saturday. Competitors tackled a 1.5 kilometre swim,